Fashions. Topic 10 of 95 plus changes in the LDS Church. 95 Thesis by Ogden Kraut. Because the daughters of Zion are haughty, making a tinkling with their feet. In that day the Lord will take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet, and their calls, and their round tires like the moon, the chains, and the bracelets, and the mufflers, the bonnets, and the ornaments of the legs, and the headbands, and the tablets, and the earrings, the rings, and nose jewels, the changeable suits of apparel, and the mantles, and the wimples, and the crisping pins, the glasses, and the fine linen, and the hoods, and the veils. And it shall come to pass, that instead of sweet smell there shall be stink, and instead of a girdle a rent, and instead of well-set hair baldness, and instead of a stomacher a girding of sackcloth, and burning instead of beauty. Isa 3:16, 18-24. In like manner also, that women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with braided hair, or gold, or pearls, or costly array, but, which becometh women professing godliness, with good works. Item 2, 9-12. If the Lord has given me means and I spend it needlessly, in rings for my fingers, and jewelry for adornment, I deprive the priesthood of that which they ought to have, to gather the poor, to preach the gospel, to build temples and to feed the hungry in our midst. I deprive a people, will by and by inherit the earth, of so many blessings. Every yard of ribbon that I buy that is needless, every flounce, and every gewgaw that is purchased for my family needlessly, robs the church of God of just so much. But it seems as though the people do not think of these things, they do not lay them to heart. Our wives and daughters seem to forget that they have responsibilities resting upon them in these respects. Brigham Young, J.D. 1418. The President, Brigham Young, stopped with us. He sat at the head of the table and had me sit down at his right. The President, when everything was ready, asked a blessing. Then all began to eat. He asked for some buttermilk, then crumbled some bread in it and began to eat. He conversed freely on the situation of the saints in the mountains, and said that he dreaded the time when the saints would become popular with the world, for he had seen in sorrow, in a dream, or in dreams, this people clothed in the fashions of Babylon, and drinking in the spirit of Babylon until one could hardly tell a saint from 22, a black leg. And he felt like shouting, "To your tents, O Israel," because it was the only thing that could keep this people pure. Many of this people, for the sake of riches and popularity, will sell themselves for that which will canker their souls and lead them down to misery and despair. It would be better for them to dwell in wigwams among the Indians than to dwell with the Gentiles and miss the glories which God wishes them to obtain. I wish my families would see the point and come forth before it is too late. For I can see the tendency in my families to hug the moth-eaten customs of Babylon to their bosoms. This is far more hurtful to them than the deadly viper, for the poisons of the viper can be healed by the power of God, but the customs of Babylon will be hard to get rid of. Mosiah Hancock Journal, page 47-48. There was a time when we could walk up and down the streets and tell by the very countenances of men whether they were Latter-day Saints or not. But can you do it now? You cannot, unless you have greater discernment and more of the Spirit and power of God than I have. Why? Because many are trying as hard as they can to transform themselves into the very shape, character, and spirit of the world. Elders in Israel, young men, mothers and daughters in Israel are conforming to the world's fashions, until their very countenances indicate its spirit and character. This course is to the shame and disgrace of those who are so unwise. Joseph F. Smith, J.D. 11, 310. Today, we live, act, and dress according to the customs and traditions of the Gentile world. Read the rest of this book for free on the Zion's Redemption Bookstore page on Facebook or at ogdenkraut.com.